Okay, this is called the Afterburn. I could have done some of that, I guess, on the Afterburn, but it's the Afterburn. So if you have a comment or question, you can raise your hand, and Paul will come around with the mic. If you're on the live stream, we've got Rob Wyatt there taking down all your questions and comments, and so he will share those as well. All right, so we'll begin, and we'll try to go back and forth a little bit, Rob, so if you're going to accumulate some things, I'll try to bounce back and forth, because if I just stay in one area, we'll lose all the time, and I don't leave you guys enough time. Okay, who's going to go first? Okay, Ashley?
I have a couple of questions. The first one is, you said, be a blessing who persecuted you. How do I bless someone who's done something so terribly wrong they had to go to prison for?
Well, look, it's not requiring you to bless people. It's saying if you're going to interact with them, bless and not curse. You can, if somebody's been dangerous, if someone has done horrible things to you, avoiding them is probably the right thing to do. But if you're going to do something, then do something that is a blessing, not a curse.
Okay.
Okay?
And then with that, what about if I persecute myself, which I notice I've been doing a lot lately?
Then find ways to do things that are nice to yourself and be a blessing to yourself.
That doesn't help.
Well, because you're not doing it, but you have to start doing it. Look, we have long-standing, habitual thinking patterns, negative ones, and they're about us. In other words, we are our own worst enemy. We think all these horrible things about ourselves. We beat ourselves up. We think we're never going to get there. We're failures. We're losers. We're this, you're that. And we say things to ourselves that we would never let anybody say to us. And I don't know why we let ourselves say it, but because we're not aware that we're doing it like we should. And the more you can get aware of it, the more you can say, stop, don't do that. Don't talk that way. Your self-talk is very important. Okay, so changing your self-talk will start making this work. Okay? And there are books and things about that you can find and I can recommend.
Yeah, if you can do that after Shabbat, that'd be great.
Yep.
And then the last one is, can pride go both ways? Can pride go both ways, like when I compare myself to others?
Look, pride can manifest itself in all kinds of manners, okay? It is prideful to look down on others. It can also be prideful to, want to flaunt, look at me, I'm so poor and I'm so this and I'm so that. It really, the more it becomes about you, that's where it's pride, okay? I've got people that never ask for help that should, that's pride, okay? I got people that ask for help when they shouldn't, that's pride. Pride takes all kinds it manifests in different ways. But it's always when it's all about you, okay? When you are the primary focus. So when you won't let me help you, it's pride because you feel like it's a shame for you to ask, or you feel like somehow I may look at you in a less of a manner because you had to ask for help. That's pride. The people that ask for help when they really don't need it, that's because they think it should all be about them, and you need to help me, and that is pride too. So pride is not a very simple thing. It covers a lot of different ways it can manifest, but it's always somehow, it's all about me and how you think about me and what I think I should have, okay? And so the way you find the balance is you have to start take your eyes off of you, okay? I'll give you an example. It could be, and some of you are this way. Some of you are the most generous people. You'll give. You'll take care of people. You give to people. You'll spend money on them. You'll buy them gifts, whatever it is. But you are brutal to do anything for. If somebody wanted to buy you something or take you out to lunch, oh, no. But you're very quick to do that for other people. That's pride. Instead, what you need to do is say thank you, because otherwise you're stealing their blessing. They want to bless you. So receive it. Okay? My in-laws were that way. It was terrible. We couldn't do anything for them. Oh, but they wanted to do for us. And that hurt my feelings, hurt my wife's feelings that they wouldn't let us do for them. You're stealing a blessing when you do that. okay? So I've learned in my life that I'll give you an appropriate way to handle that if you to see your pride. If somebody offers, and this happens often enough, somebody may offer to buy me lunch or whatever, pay for a meal or something. So I first always say, that's not necessary, I got it, it's okay. Because they may have felt obligated in some way to do something for me. So that's my way of testing the obligation level. Then, if they insist, I just say thank you. I've watched people argue over a check, and they're not the other way around, like trying not to pay it, trying to pay it. Like, it's stupid. Now, both people are miserable, and each one was trying to be a blessing. And now it's just no good result at all. So I will almost always, now there are times when I know who it is and everything else, and I know they just want to do it. I know what they're doing, and I'll just say thank you, and they already did it. But if it's like a first time, I'll always tell them, look, I'm good, I appreciate it, but I can take care of it. And then they say, no, I really want to do this for you. Then I say, absolutely, thank you. Okay? And this is important. Look, some of you have 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and you know what it's like when they get to that age and they start to get independent. And they're struggling with something, and you go to help them, and they pull it, and they go, no, I'm going to do it, I'll do it. And they have no idea what they're doing. Oh, but they want it, they're going to do it. But they can't receive help. That's pride too, okay? And some of you are adults doing the same thing. You can't receive help, and then you steal a blessing from the person who wants to help you. You got to be careful with that. And some of you feel horribly guilty, and you feel ashamed if you need to ask for help. Look, Yahweh says in Scripture, the poor will always be with you because you need to learn how to be generous and take care of people. Now, he also says in other places there shouldn't be any poor amongst you. And there's reasons for that too. But he says, but yet they will be, because we need to learn how to treat people who have less. But also the ones who have less have to learn how to receive, and also not to feel entitled and enabled and everything else. Because some people have less and will never be able to have more because of handicaps and things like that. Some people have less just because they haven't figured out how to have more. And there's a lot of you that struggle with that. You've allowed what appears to you to be a handicap to be debilitating when it doesn't have to be debilitating. Okay? Because I can show you people. Okay, Rabbi Tom is a tremendous inspiration. Rabbi Tom's 77 years old. Isn't that right? That we just turned 77. Just had his chest opened, had a mask taken out of it, and all he could talk about is when he's going to come back to work. I'm not kidding. He argued with the nurse. Nurse said, it's going to be at least 4 weeks. He said 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks. He went back and forth. I'm not kidding. And some of you haven't done anything for years or months and months and months and could care less. And here's a man who's like, he's worried that we won't have the job for him because we won't let him work because he may not be healthy enough, whatever. He wants to work. And you can't tell me your situation, your health is worse than that. But yet, what are you doing? And don't say, oh, but he's a rabbi and you hired him. No, he used to work over at, where was he? The Restore. He worked at the Restore. He went and got regular jobs. He wanted to work and be productive. He feels the pride, the proper pride, of getting a paycheck. And he doesn't need it to live, but he works. And he certainly doesn't have to. And so I want you to compare yourself, whatever you're going through, to him. Okay? And so just be careful with all that. I mean, and so it's pride, though, that's causing you to look down on people. It's also pride causing you not to do things. You got too much pride. Pride's only going to do what? It's going to go right before you fall. You're going to fall. You're going to be miserable. People full of pride are never happy. You can't be happy in that state. There's no joy there. All right, who's next? Let's go to Rob.
Okay, from Michelle Perez, says, Rabbi, is it prideful even if it comes from a place of someone not wanting to lose their independence or not want to become lazy?
No, look, there's a proper pride in that, taking pride in yourself. Pride meaning that you can feel good that you're doing what you need to do. See, pride's a complicated word. So we've talked about people generationally losing pride in their work. So the quality of work that's being done today isn't quite what it was a couple of generations ago when people took more pride in doing things well. And so there is an appropriate level of pride, appropriate self-esteem, appropriate self-worth. But those things come from appropriate behaviors. But the pride that gets in the way of your getting what you really need in life and what you want in life, that's the pride that's the problem. The pride that hurts other people because you're looking down at them and treating them from this elevated, I'm above you, that's the bad pride. Okay? But it's not pride in a bad way to say, I don't want to receive certain types of help because it will take away my independence. As long as you can survive doing it that way, then do it. Have your independence. That's a good pride to know that you're taking care of yourself. The more dependent you are on others, that's hard on our pride and our ego. But if your reality is that you can't function without it, then get your other pride out of the way and accept that reality. There are those that will always need help, and that hurts them inside, in their ego and their pride, but they have to be at peace, but that's what it is. And if that's what it is, that's what it is. But if you can, you should, basically is what it is. If there's things you can do, you should. And if you don't know what you can do, then you need to figure it out. Well, I don't know what I could do. I don't know, figure it out. Whatever your issue is. I'm in a wheelchair, I can't stand very much, I have sciatica, I have pain, I've got this, I've got that. Whatever it is, find out what other people with that problem are doing and making livings and doing it for work. Well, I can't stand a lot, so find a job where you sit. I can't sit a lot, well, find a job where you can stand up and sit down, whatever. I don't talk well, find a job that doesn't require you to talk. I can't do much with my hands, but I can speak pretty good. To find a job where you need to talk. It's not rocket science, okay? And almost all of you, if you're getting disability, can still work up to a point and get both. So don't be all like, and you know what? Here's another pride thing that I really want to, you got to really stop this. You need to stop protecting your benevolent benefit from the government. What do I mean by that? You're so afraid to work where you might make money and they'll take away your benefit. Even though when you make money, you'll make more than the benefit. I don't know why you'd rather make $800 a month benefit for being on disability than make, $300-400 a week, $10 an hour, $400 a week, doing something and making more than double what the government's giving you. Oh, but they'll stop giving it to me. Well, so what? You get double. I mean, what's that? I don't get the thinking. You get so protective of losing the benefit. You'll feel so much better taking care of yourself and not needing the benefit. I'm looking forward to when I get Social Security telling them keep it. Don't need it. All right? As a matter of fact, that's part of the insanity of our Social Security system. They should not be giving it to anybody that doesn't need it. It's an insurance program, okay? I don't get any money from my auto insurance unless I need it. I don't get any money from my health insurance unless I need it. Why am I getting anything from Social Security unless I need it? And then they wonder why it's bankrupting. Well, because no matter how much people make, they get it anyway. People making $150,000, $200,000, $300,000, $1 million a year, they still get it when they turn 65 or whatever it is. Why? It's an insurance program. Of course it's bankrupt. It's giving money to people that don't need it. No insurance can give money to everybody that doesn't need it. All the people without car issues, If they gave them money, the car insurance companies will all go out of business. You only get it if you need it. So dumb. But you should be striving to need as little as possible and provide for yourself. That's where the good pride comes from. That's where the self-worth comes from. But those of you that can't, don't lose all your pride and self-worth, the good stuff, because you can't. Remember, can't and won't are two totally different things. Do not confuse them. You need to be totally ashamed of any won't in your life. That should be a should instead of a won't. It should be a will. Any won't that should be a will, shame on you. Any can't, accept the can'ts. Have peace about a can't. I can't do that. So be okay with that. Don't be beating yourself up and ashamed and frustrated because you can't do something. I wish I could wake up all the won'ts, though, and smack them. Because you're just ruining your own life and then creating all kinds of problems for everybody around you because all you do is whine and complain and you won't do what you need to do. But don't have a problem with the can'ts. If I lost the use of my legs, I would be frustrated and disappointed, only up to a point. I would try to accept immediately as fast as I could, I can't walk, okay? But I can still do a lot of other things and focus on what I can do. But yet we get so focused on our can'ts, and then the can't turns into, well, then I won't try anything else. And then we're really useless. Because you think you're useless because you can't do what you thought you should be doing. Well, do something else. No matter what handicap might approach me, I will still find something to do until there's nothing I can do. Until there's nothing I can do. That's me. And some of you are still wallowing in, and I'd sit there with like, well, what are you doing? Well, I've got this problem. And I can point out a million people with that problem that are working. What's your problem? Your problem is not your body or your legs, it's in your head. And it's in your heart. You become weak. You become weak. And we embrace weakness, we celebrate it, we coddle it, we enable it, we entitle it, and everything else. Does anybody really think we're going to have a whole bunch of weak people in the kingdom? I can't imagine that. I don't think, if weak people were acceptable, why would Yeshua need a rod of iron? Just asking. Anybody been in the military? You think boot camp stuff? Wait till Yeshua shows up. Get that rod of iron. Bam. All right? We got to strengthen up. I don't talk about your body. I'm talking about your heart, your mind. You got to get strong. Figure out what you can do. I don't know what I can do. Figure it out. And then do it, and do it with everything you've got. There are so many things that you're not doing that you could do. You waste so much time. All of us. Just wasting time. Look, I watch a lot of stuff, success people, and they tell their stories. And they all look at you, and they'll say things like, I didn't watch TV. I didn't play games. I didn't go on Facebook. I put my focus on where I was going and what I was doing and put every effort I could on it every day. The relentless pursuit of the goal. The kingdom's a goal you got to relentlessly pursue. You want to have more money at the end of the month instead of more month at the end of the money? Relentlessly pursue it. You'll be fine. It takes discipline. You see this? I complain about this. I could lose 40 pounds, whatever it is. You know why I haven't lost it yet? And I will. I told you I will. And it's going to happen because I'm going to remember that I used to be disciplined. And I'm going to be disciplined again. The discipline to eat less or eat the appropriate things. The discipline that when someone walks around because they happen to bring everybody a donut where I don't have to eat the donut, bring everybody chocolate cake and I don't have to eat chocolate cake, or whatever it is. Last night, I lacked discipline. You're laughing. I didn't even tell you what happened. We had some people over for Erev Shabbat. There was ice cream and cake. I had a little bit. My son didn't finish his. I felt a lack of discipline. And I ate it. I already ate the amount I already felt comfortable eating. Okay? But see, if I had discipline, it would have been no problem saying, that's okay, he didn't want it, you can throw it out, I don't eat it. All right? But there's a part of me going, oh, we shouldn't waste it. No, but see, when you eat it, you waste it. Sorry, I just thought of that as I was saying it. It's a whole different way of wasting it. I used to tease my friends when I was in shape and I was a personal trainer back in those days and all that kind of stuff, and they would go to eat like whatever, the cake or cookie or whatever. I said, look, it's faster. Just put it right on your hips. Save yourself digestion and everything. Just stick it right on. But why is it that we have financial problems, health problems, all these other problems? Because we're not disciplined. We are not disciplined enough to fix those problems. It takes discipline to focus your energy and to do what needs to get done, or stop doing what you need to stop doing. Nobody out there who has what you don't have that you might want has more than 24 hours in a day than you do. They got the same 24 hours. The only difference is what they do with their time and what you do with yours. Period. That's it. Oh, but I'm not. Well, I'm already 50 years old. I can show you people that didn't start till we're older than you. I was watching some guy on a video. He's 81 years old. He runs 10 miles a day or whatever he runs, and he didn't start until he was 60. Because you might think, oh, he's been running his whole life. No, he didn't start till he was 60. He's older than me, and that's what I'm thinking, wow, that's my inspiration. He could start at 60, and now he's running 10 miles a day, and he's 81 years old. Looks like he's in great shape, healthy as a horse, running, no problem. I said, what might I be able to do at 57, almost 58? I'm not even 60 yet. And look what he's doing. And I have trouble, moving around and all this stuff because I've been sitting on my rear too much and everything else, eating too much. That could all change. Why can't you change whatever you're struggling with? Well, take all those excuses out. Get rid of that. That's all junk. You need to start right away knowing that all that stuff is junk. It's a lie. It's just false, false evidence appearing real fear. All right? Okay? Just keep that really clear in your mind. All right. Where do we go next? Over here. Amy.
Thank you, Rabbi. Geez, the more you talk, the more things that come to my mind to say. So let me start out with this. This might encourage you, Rabbi. Proverbs 4:13 says, become strong and disciplined. Do not let go. Watch over her, for she is your life. So we know you can do it.
Right.
Just
What's
like
the she that we're
do it.
watching over?
I'm sorry?
What's the she that's being watched over in there?
It was talking about wisdom and
That's right.
understanding.
Wisdom is the she that's being. So you got to be diligent. You got to watch over it. You got to be disciplined. And that's how you're going to, and with wisdom. Okay? Absolutely.
Right. So my main comment is going to be based on what you said at the end of the teaching about being in other people's affairs. And I appreciate that sadly you have to repeat some things over and over and over and over and over. And that is one of them. But the thing that always comes to my mind is we do, for whatever reason, think that we have permission to insert ourselves into other people's lives. And so one of the times that you were correcting us on that, I really appreciated that you said that we have to give people permission to, say something. Otherwise, if we haven't given them permission, then we don't need to receive what they say. So I've been practicing that ever since, and just also remembered that I haven't been given permission to be in a lot of other people's lives, so I need to keep my mouth shut if I even think I might need to say something. But a way that really was easy for me to have a better understanding of that was to think back to my time working in the defense industry. And, you have different security levels based on your job. And so let's say, one clearance level allows you to look at that equal level of documentation. Well, you have to have a need-to-know card. And you cannot get access to that level of documents unless you're on that need-to-know card and you can prove you have the need to know what's in the document. So I thought about my life being like that document, right, and what kind of relationships I have with people and who really has the need to know maybe the innermost workings of my life, and whose need-to-know card would I be on, so to speak. So it goes both ways.
There you go.
So I was able to really think through people I interact with and what level of a relationship we have and what level of need to know is there. And to add to that, I was thinking, when we were going through Romans and you're talking about the different gifts that people have, whether it's encouragement or, one way of serving, most anybody knows I really enjoy being in the kitchen, and that's just something that's natural for me, and I like it a lot. And the more I get to do that or help with the cleaning or whatever, the more I get to interact with the other people that are there. And there are certain people, and there's just some that are the same team, and we get to know each other better. So the more that you put yourself out there to serve as part of the body, right, then you can get to know other people better and develop those relationships. So I really, I appreciate you for so many things, Rabbi, but to me, I don't ever take your strong words other than they encourage me, they strengthen me, and they help me when I'm in situations to challenge myself of how I can do better, to maybe fix an issue when it comes up before I have to come for counsel and you say, well, what are you doing to fix this? And I haven't done everything I could do before I get to you. And then I guess the last thing that came to my mind was a lot of times we think we have a problem, but we don't really have a problem. We have a symptom, and we need to do root cause analysis.
Yep.
So thank you for all that, Rabbi. There's just so much in there.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Well, good. Good job. All right. And I hope you were listening, because I think for some of you, right, each different way of putting things, like each sort of analogy or metaphor and different, what I say, what Amy just said, different people, the way they put it, it may resonate with you. So always listen, because her way of using clearance cards and security and need to know, that may have worked for some of you even more than what I said, and vice versa. So always be listening, because you never know when someone may put something in a way that goes, oh yeah, now I get it, and you can relate to it. And the main thing being, what I liked about what Amy said was, this is how she took what I said and how she can make it work. See, the information is of no use if you're not finding a way to make it usable. And so when she thought of it this way, it became more functional, so she could do it. I think that's really important that we understand that. So thank you for pointing those things out. It's very good that you shared that. Okay, Rob.
Okay, from Jesse A. says, Rabbi, what do I do when I'm asked for help, but they act like it's just a big rock and will come to me with the same thing, and it just becomes tiring.
All right, so I guess I think we need to figure out, when people ask, does that mean you have to do? You may have to understand, based on your relationship, if it's something you need to redirect them to someone more qualified for that specific thing, or to be able to handle that thing in whatever way. So I would say that don't feel like just because people ask that you have to then do. And at some point, you need to tell them, you need to go figure this out. And I've had to tell people that who've come to me over time and said, look, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to go figure this out. I can't fix this for you. And if I did, it wouldn't actually help you because I'd be undermining your growth in your own way. So sometimes my advice has been, figure it out. Go. What have I told you in the past? Become an expert in your problem. Okay, whatever your problem is, physical, psychological, emotional, doesn't matter. Okay? Become an expert. Know everything about it, all the different workarounds, all the different ways to function. And by the way, that's a really important term that you really need to focus on, is the idea of you may need not a cure, but a workaround. Because what you have, what you're dealing with, may not be fixable. In other words, you're stuck with it. But you can learn how to figure out a workaround so that with this thing that's not fixable, you can still function and be successful and do the things you need to do. Because you have a workaround. Okay? And I think that's part of like when they invented like the fidget spinner, like for people that need to be doing something, but they need to find a workaround so they can focus and concentrate. All right? You may not know this, but I've said how I've got a terrible time with it, and at times that's really bad in terms of my ADHD and that kind of thing. And we had a seminar here a few months back that was for mental health, for teaching, training for the ministry and for the teachers and stuff, to dealing with people with serious mental health and suicide issues and those kind of things. And I sat in the back of the room with my computer doing other things and watching and listening at the same time, and I understood and paid better attention to that seminar than the first time the lady came and taught a different class for a couple of months earlier when I didn't have something to deal with my ADD problem. And everybody knew I was paying attention because I raised my hand and I participated more than I did in the first time. But that was a workaround. And I told the teacher up front, I said, look, I need this workaround. I hope it doesn't bother you. I'll sit in the back. I won't bother anybody. Because I knew where I was that day in my head. So you need to figure out workarounds for you. Now, bear in mind, it has to actually work. And so I didn't miss anything. I paid very good attention because of this little workaround that was working for me. Participated appropriately in everything and was right on the right page where everybody was and what was going on. But I needed this little workaround. All right? So you got to figure out what you need for you. Okay, some people need music, some people need this and that. If it's something that comes with like a concentration workaround. Some people need total quiet or whatever figure out what you need. Maybe you need to be in a certain type of a chair or a certain way to stand up. Like I have a great workaround that's helped me is that I got an up and down desk and I keep it up almost all the time. Surprised somebody the other day when I was actually sitting. They're like, wow, Rabbi's sitting. Because I almost never have the desk down and sitting. And so, but I didn't know if I would. It's just the concept. I liked it when I first got it. And I liked the fact it was up and down. I just didn't realize I could have just got a desk that height and I would never have to worry about the sitting part. Okay? Because 90-something%. Figure out whatever you struggle with. What can I do to still get what I need done knowing that I struggle? Anyways, I think that's going to be important. Okay, next, where are we? Back over on this side. Okay, Shira.
Thank you, Rabbi. This is really, really rich stuff. I have two things. First of all, about being real. That is such a key for my own life. I came to Beth Shalom under you, Rabbi Steve, 8.5 years ago, and I was not a very positive-minded person. I'd been through 2 divorces, and I'd had a lot of things knock me down in life. And through sitting under you, I learned about emunah, and I learned about just seeing everything as his goodness to prepare us for the kingdom. And so my yellow started kicking in, and I started becoming a more joyful person. And now, I'm kind of like a helium balloon. People are, come to earth, Sarah. But negatively minded people all around, and I have been in that place. I'm not judging anyone, but just to say, in my experience, becoming a positively minded person, sometimes people who haven't reached that place yet are going to think you're not being real. And I had to learn not to care because, like Nehemiah said, the joy of Yahweh is your strength.
Amen.
And so on that joy, then I'll come into the next part, which is...
Well, let me say something about this part.
Okay.
It's really important that with everything I say, pretty much, and everything Yeshua says and that kind of thing, is meant for you. So when I say things like being real, you be real. Don't worry about the other person being real. You know whether or not you're being real. And if the other person can't see it, that's because they can't see it. That's not an issue really for you. But you know that you're being real, that you're living in reality and what everything is genuinely and is true in your life. And if you're really floating around like a helium balloon, that's real for you, and if they think that's whatever, that doesn't matter, okay? And so don't worry so much about what other people will think. They're going to think what they think. Yeah. What you want to focus on is, are you actually living in reality and being real? There's two different parts of it. You need to be real, but also you need to be thinking and recognizing what is real, okay?
Amen. Because I think a lot of times, people just automatically think being real is letting your guts hang out and bleeding all over the place, or, and sometimes being real, I think for me is coming to a place where I can rejoice in my successes. And I love it that there's people here who can rejoice with me over that and don't think I'm trying to be puffed up. But I've had quite a few people over the past 2 feasts come up and thank me for the scripture readings, and almost, I would say 80% of them will say this: "Thank you so much for your scripture readings. I put you on every night so I can get to sleep."
That's okay. I hear that about my teachings too. Okay, so I have people telling me, "Don't get offended, Rabbi, but I go to sleep to you every night and I'm listening." So we have that in common.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm honored, and I had to think quick because my blue was like, what?
No.
But I had to think quick, and so I learned to say this to people, and it's very true. It's like, what better way to fall asleep than to the word of Yahweh? So
Amen.
It's not me.
Amen. Amen.
So,
and let me say this, because it kind of ties in with what you were talking about and what Amy's talked about that I didn't get to really address, which is in being real. Okay, because Amy mentioned something about digging under things to get to the. One of the things that I really want us to understand is, are we looking at something that's a symptom or a cause? And because the cause is the reality. The symptom is a symptom of the reality, because the reality is what's causing the symptom, okay? The symptom is not real. I mean, it's real, but it's not. It's only there because there's something underlying it. You fix the underlying thing, the symptom goes away. If you try to just fix the symptom and the underlying thing's not there, the symptom comes back anyway, or it manifests in a different form. But that's why when people talk to me, I say, "Well, what's the problem?" They say this, that, and I say, "Well, no, that's not the problem." He goes, "Yes, it is." I say, "No, let's go underneath until we get to what really is the problem." All right? You're still telling me symptoms, okay? And see, when a person sees you floating around, they don't understand what's underneath why you're floating around. They just think you're just floating around and you're not, that's not reality. Well, it's your reality based on all the growth and things you've been through, and they've gotten to the point where you just feel lighter, and you're in this higher, happier, lighter place. But they don't understand that that's not a symptom. That's a reality underneath all that. That's bringing that. There's a reality that's bringing that, what you can see. Okay?
And there's still some pretty dumb things that I can say while I'm floating around, but I'm thankful for the forgiveness. I would like to give a really exciting testimony, and I'm going to look right at the camera. Rabbi Tom, high fives and a knuckle bump, because you, Rabbi Tom, have inspired me to go into a whole new level. 3 years ago, after 12 years of intense hip pain, I had a hip replacement. I went through all the therapy, and then I was told, "You're going to need a knee replacement," and I said, "Over my dead body." And, and so I've been for 3 years really working at my health, but your persistence, I mean, I've known you, Rabbi Tom, for a while now, over 8 years, and I've seen you go through some pretty life-threatening operations, one after the other, and I've watched you pull through, and I've watched you just grab the reins and take everything Father will give you and just serve and serve and serve, and we just all love you so much. And I just want to tell everybody that because of this last operation and just the consistent testimony through you, Rabbi Tom, I made the determination that I was at a point where I'm going to stop limiting my service to things where I can sit at a computer or a piano. And so this past feast, well, actually, I made that determination before this past feast, and I said, Father, it's not just money that you multiply. I'm going to believe that if I put forth and stop coddling my knee, I'll put an extra brace on. I don't have kids' songs to deal with this feast. I'm going to go in the kitchen. I'm going to serve. And it was wonderful. And Mother's Day, I took the hike to Benton Falls.
Yep.
With a little help from Rabbi getting me over some of those rocks. I went all the way out there and back, which I'd never dared to do before, with no negative repercussions. Friday, I came in and I served a shift on dishwashing, and I felt great, no repercussions. By Shabbat, I was doing things I hadn't done for 15 years, and it's all your fault, Mercy.
So let the nation sing.
Oh, I'm telling you.
She was dancing. I watched her in the front row, and she's got her legs kicking and going, and she's just...
I was jumping, I was kicking, I was bouncing,
Yeah.
and no pain. And it's like because of this chocolate jive over here, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And I feel like the other day I went to Dr. Koza.
And if you only knew how much the staff likes chocolate, so that was, you know.
Me too.
I have it stashed away, so does she and others in the different... Okay, never mind.
But it's really cool because Dr. Kozer told me, after adjusting me, that after a year of working on me, I was ready to go back to the gym.
All right.
So after I eat dinner, I'm going home. I'm going to change in my pants. I'm going to be back here, Billy, to help you.
All right. And that's so funny because I just canceled my membership. Okay, so it wasn't working. I gave him my $10 and it didn't help. I'm gonna do it on my own. I know what I'm doing with that. I was a personal trainer. It's like patient heal thyself. You know what I'm saying? I have no excuse. I know exactly what to do, and I will. And you'll all see it. And so I'm accountable to the fact that I said it out here to everybody. All right, so you'll all see it. All right, live stream.
Okay, from First Love says question, I live in a totally negative household. How do I overcome that?
It depends on what you mean by overcome. Okay, look, Amy pointed something out that I've taught. Lots and lots of motivational guys and life coaching guys have taught the same thing. What happens around you doesn't have to be received by you. Yeshua was being mocked, scourged, spit on, everything, and he didn't receive any of it. Just because all these terrible things are happening around you and you're sort of surrounded by and immersed in it doesn't mean you have to receive it. You have, look at the stoning of Stephen. And he was looking up in the heavens and he got to see some incredible things, and they were stoning him to death. But he didn't receive what they were sending. Okay? Yeah, the rock still hit, and yeah, he still died. But he wasn't receiving. So, so point number one is you don't have to receive it. Point number two is, I almost feel like the jokes that we're talking about, like the Amityville Horror, like says, get out. If you're in a horribly nothing but negative environment, leave. Why are you staying in a place like that? Oh, it's my family. So, why would you stay in a toxic place that's that toxic all the time? Leave. All right? I mean, either get a discussion going where the toxicity level could be diminished or leave. And certainly, I would say get counsel about all this, but just understand that A, you don't need to receive it, and B, you don't have to stay there either. There's no place anywhere in Scripture that says whatever terrible situation you're in, you need to stay in it. All right? So just those are what I would say there. Okay, Rob, wait, who here? Who's next? In the back? Steve. Okay, Steve, and then after that, the others have their hands up, okay?
Alrighty, I just wanted to say something off of what Billy had said earlier regarding your teachings, because to me, you require us to take responsibility and then action. So when the world promotes avoidance, seeking a way to avoid taking responsibility or doing anything, that's why you rub people the wrong way. And to me, I'm glad I've been around such a long time, because I hear how people have seen me change, but it's watching and walking after this guy for such a long time that's made a difference. And maybe that's been more apparent, more recent than not, but it takes some time to get out the crud, I guess.
Hold on, let me just interrupt and say this. I'm not rubbing anybody the wrong way. They're interpreting it that way. Okay? Let's just be careful with that, because, that guy just rubs me the wrong way. Well, no, that's your interpretation of what I'm trying to do and what I did. So let's, be careful with that. All right, next.
All right, and then it says, and then you talked about having a different mindset, but we can't have a different mindset until we take responsibility and then take action, because you're gonna. And then one other thing you talked about is conveying appreciation, but I think a lot of times we have a hard time because we have hurt feelings, and instead of focusing on how we were hurt, we should find out what caused the hurt. So it's kind of in line with what she said. And then one other thing is preferences. How can I show preference? Because sometimes, not everybody, but some people will only give preference if they see a benefit to the person they're giving for themselves. They see giving the preference to somebody by benefiting themselves some way. And
right.
That's one thing I can see Rabbi never does, at least in my experience, because his preferences is to the person he feels will get the project done the way he wants it, rather than personality, maybe.
All right, amen. Look, there's a verse that talks about, actually it's two verses. One verse says to show no extra high respect to the wealthy, because then you're doing something, you're giving them preference because you'll benefit in some way. It also says don't show preference to the poor, because again, you might benefit in some sort of public standing and people might think you're so wonderful or whatever, but you're not doing it for some benefit to you. You need to treat everybody with equity, and the poor need to be taken care of because they're the poor, but not because you're going to get, which is why Yeshua says, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. You need to just, don't do it for public accolade. Just help people if you're going to help people, right? All right, live stream.
I don't have any more questions. It's got a couple of comments here. Pete and Brenda Lamb says, I think the only teaching that Rabbi didn't push us to do better was the legend of the coin. And then, and then somebody else said, they've heard it said, being selfless is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less.
Okay, I like that.
So, okay, right, yeah, I just got one right here. Tracy Thomas, who has a question. Quality time is important to me. I believe we need to deal with the root instead of the fruit. How do I improve my quality time with Elohim so that it helps my QT with people, quality time with people.
All right. Question from the other side of the world. Okay. Hi, Tracy. Look, quality time, and by the way, for the lamb's question, it's how, it said you give him guidance on how you scratch the beard. You got to do it just right, and yeah. Okay. That's the legend of the coin thing. All right, so for Tracy, look, quality time, if you remember what I talked about when we were talking about the love languages and quality time being one of the 5 love languages, it has to be based on the person and their definition of what is quality time. So if you are wanting to do quality time with your husband, then you need to find out what it looks like to him. If he wants to do it with you, he has to find out what it looks like to you. So when you want to have quality time with the Creator, you got to ask yourself, what does that look like to him? Okay? Prayer, meditation, that like active prayer, not just the always praying, but just the actual sitting down and conversing with him. Quality time, showing up on Shabbat and giving him the whole day. Showing up at the feast. These are quality time moments for him. So you got to figure out what quality time looks like to him. Now, as far as giving quality time to other people, not so simple. You can't just extrapolate that out, except the process is the same. What does it look like to the other person? All right? So my wife and I don't have that as our it's more her top language. It's me for like 3rd or 4th, whatever. But if I want to tell her what I think is quality time and she tells me, they don't match. So you can't assume that what's quality time to you is quality time to the other person, okay? And so you have to learn and have to ask. So whenever I give guidance to couples and have them do the love language thing, I tell them, make sure that whatever the love language is, you explain to the other person what that looks like to you. Whether it's physical touch or acts of service or quality time or words of affirmation or gifts, it doesn't matter. Somebody might think, oh, your first love language is gifts. Well, I'm not buying you a whole bunch of stuff. I don't have that kind of money. That might not be what they think of a gift could be. Leaving them a little note might be a gift. There may be little things you can do and leave for them or give them that doesn't cost hardly anything, and it's still a gift. All right? And so, same thing with quality time or words of affirmation or whatever. Like words of affirmation is my second one. But I don't really necessarily need it from all of you. I only want it from certain people. I only need it from certain people, if you understand what I'm saying. While the rest of you, I appreciate that you do come up to me and say, hey, that was a great teaching. But for my love language, I want to hear it only from certain people. That's my love language, okay? And so just to understand the same thing works with quality time as Tracy was pointing out, but it gives me a chance to kind of explain the rest of them. Don't assume because you know what somebody's love language is that you know what that actually looks like, okay? Okay? Because you have to find out their definition, all right? What can I do so that you feel like we're doing quality time? What can I do so you feel like it's a kind of act of service or a gift or physical touch? Physical touch, I almost get the reaction all the time from people, oh, well, that person just wants sex. Well, they do, but that's not the point. They may just be happy just to give them a hug every day or walk over and give them a kiss on the back of the head or just hold their hand, it doesn't have to be whatever you think in the biggest sense. Like the person who likes gifts may really like a nice bracelet or diamond or something, but they'd be very happy with the little things too. And acts of service doesn't mean rebuild the entire house or paint the deck, or it may be some small thing you can do that's an act of service. Although they might not be upset if you did the bigger things too. So don't just jump to some conclusion, and usually it's to whatever the biggest version of it is. There are lots of small things you can do every day, okay? Same thing with our Creator. There's lots of small things we do every day, quality time-wise and acts of service-wise, and all the things we could do with Him except physical touch. Words of affirmation, we could tell Him how much we appreciate Him and what a blessing He is. We can do acts of service by doing the things He's told us to do that are and serving within the body and that kind of thing. We can give Him quality time, As far as gifts, we make offerings. We can do all the other 4. The only thing we can't do is the physical touch one. And you can do all those with your Elohim, okay? All right, over here, Anna.
I have a confession to make. About a year ago, I almost destroyed my husband. and it could have possibly killed him, okay? But what happened was that I was talking to my mother, and my father is only 9 years older than my husband. And my father is not doing well or anything. And Mom was saying, you need to take care of your husband. And I'm thinking, okay, she's in her 70s. My husband is in his 70s too, you know, so I need to listen. And she said, you know, you need to tell him not to do so much. And so I had a conversation with my husband, and I said, you know, honey, you're doing an awful lot. You know, you're getting older. You need to slow down. And then I watched him. I watched him slowly do less. It took him 2 days to do a project that should have taken him maybe 2 hours. And I couldn't figure out what the heck was the matter with him. I'm thinking there's just something wrong with him. You know, maybe my mom is right. There is something, you know, he is getting older and all this other stuff. And so I thought, I'm going to have a conversation with my husband. Now, I'm listening to my mother, okay, who I thought knew what she was talking about. And I told Richard and we talked, and I found out that what I did was I was destroying him. I wasn't allowing him to do what he thought he could do. And so we agreed that I would let him do whatever he wanted to do until the day he died, whenever that is, because I don't know when that is. He doesn't know when that is. And the thing is that my husband is perfectly healthy. He's not on medication of any kind. He'll be 73 this summer, and he works his butt off here. And then most people don't realize that when he comes home, he's working his butt off at home too. And so he doesn't act his age at all. And what I learned is that you have to really watch who you take counsel with, big time, even if it's your own mother, because she doesn't know everything. And I mean, my parents are not in good health. And I look at my husband and I'm like, man, I hope I'm like him when I'm 73, you know, because he just keeps going.
You're 73?
He will be this summer.
I wish I'd known that before I hired you. I thought I was hiring a young guy. No, he does a great job. He does a great job and gets out there and, you know.
What I also learned is you can't tell somebody that they can't do something because you may not really know what they can and cannot do.
Amen. Amen. Okay, so 2 things worth repeating. One is, be really careful who you're listening to. I mean, the level of influence that you allow the wrong people to have and how it will screw up your marriage, it'll screw up you, it'll screw up whatever, your parenting styles. Just be really careful who you're listening to. Point 1. Point 2, we do not live in a world where everybody is the same. So her mother's advice may have been perfectly appropriate for many other 72-year-olds, but not for Richard. In other words, there's not a one-size-fits-all, and you can't know what that person is capable of, okay? I mean, I've had people over time, many times, be concerned that I was pushing things to my limit. I said, you don't know my capacity. You have no idea my capacity. Because they'll look and say, there's no way you could keep this up. And I'm not necessarily struggling at that point. Richard knows what I'm talking about. Okay? Now, his is more of a physical workload and somebody thinking at his age he shouldn't be able to do it. Mine was just a responsibility workload of having to juggle so many things and push the candle that way so much. And maybe you could say the pneumonia thing had something to do with it, but it probably didn't. It's a mechanical thing that when I have a challenge in my nasal passages, it tends to drip into my lungs. It's a physical problem that then causes the pneumonia. That's usually happens because of allergies. But it wasn't necessarily because I pushed myself so hard. Now, I probably had some problems with where I wasn't giving some rest the way I could have, and supplemental-wise, I was lacking in some things, in terms of minerals and other things in my system that I could fix diet-wise. But, don't ever think that and presume that you know what people's limits are. Now, be careful you're not pushing people to those limits, but if they're choosing, okay, and I think this is what Anna was talking about, if they're choosing to say, my limits are not reached yet, then let them. Let them, okay? Because you have to allow for that. And praise Yah, there are people that, like Rabbi Tom, like Richard, like me and others, who seem to go beyond what the average person can do in terms of their capacity for something, okay? Not that I'm as old as they are, but the workload that I take on, if you actually saw it, you may think, how is one person doing all those things? Billy looks at it all the time. And they're very quick to say, you need to back up, ease up, take less on. But I don't necessarily feel that stuff, just like Richard didn't. Richard's like, I'm not feeling any problem. Why are you treating me like I'm old? Right? I don't feel old. Why are you treating me like I'm old? I can do all these things. And I expect at some point if he does slow down and can't do certain things, he's going to ask for help. And there are certain things that he can't do, maybe like he was when he was super much younger, and he does get help. But that doesn't mean he can't do more than you think he can do. Problem is that we want to impose on others what we think they can do or should do. And that's what Anna ran into with her mother. Okay? Be careful about that. Because you don't know. The only person who knows is that person. Now, you can encourage them and say, look, I just want to make sure that I put in my 2 cents. I love you. I don't want you to overdo yourself and kill yourself, that you monitor your own capacity. And I would say the same thing to Richard. Look, you're 73 this summer. Just keep an eye on your capacity. You're not getting any younger. Okay? I'm not saying act like you're now old or something, but just be aware of that, you have growing limitations as we get older. There's only so much we can do. And so I've started to recognize, which is why I'm overloading Billy, because he's 15 years younger than me or whatever, 13 years younger. So good, I can overload him. Okay? And, people see the stuff I throw. And by the way, my workload has not gotten any less doing that. It just means stuff that I've had to put off gets done now. So in case somebody's thinking, wow, Rabbi must have all this free time. No. My workload hasn't shrunk at all, but I'm starting to finally pick up on things that have had to be put to the side. But I think that's really important that A, do not just take advice from anybody and get guidance, and B, never presume that you know what the other person can handle. Okay, if you're seeing something, like if she actually saw him struggling, she may go up to him and say, Richard, I just want to make sure you're being honest with yourself here, that's all, because I'm seeing you struggling. But she's not seeing him struggle. He's not on medications. There's nothing wrong with his health. He seems to be doing great. So don't project something that's not there. And don't all of you make assumptions that the pneumonia I got was because I pushed myself too hard. It may have something to do with it. It may not. Because the pneumonia comes from a mechanical problem of fluid getting in the lungs, and mine was coming from a nasal drip problem of some sort, okay? I have these problems almost every few years, usually allergy time, when I get that kind of a problem. Now I have an idea of how to handle it so that the body handles it more quickly, and hopefully I won't have the problem anymore. But now I have an awareness, though, not to push it as hard. I go to bed earlier than I used to. I get up earlier, though. So I'm working about the same amount of hours. But I'm trying to take more breaks and do certain things to make sure that I'm not burning it out too big. I'd like to still be doing this at 100, okay? And so you may have to sit me in a chair to do it, but I'm going to do it. All right? Look, I walked out here half dead, and I still was ready to do it. Once I got in front of the mic, Uncle Bob was ready to pull me out of here. But once I got up here, I was ready to stay. And I would have, too, if they had let me. But I looked over at him, and I was like, he's going to kill me. So, and I was scary looking at that point. I mean, I sounded bad. I didn't realize until I watched back the playback. I was like, oh, my gosh. No wonder you guys are like crying watching me walk up there. I thought I was just trying to convince everybody I wasn't dying, and I didn't do a good job of that, actually. Rabbi, if you're trying to convince everybody you're not dying, this is not the way to do it. Because there were rumors going around that we were hiding something. Well, I wasn't hiding anything. I just needed to recover, you know. And I came out here and I was like, hi, everybody. The rumors are not true. I'm okay. And I was like this standing. I was like, okay, so that was not very convincing. And my wife tried to convince me. She said, you're going to scare everybody. She was right. Okay? But let's understand, if your heart is to do, even that condition wasn't going to keep me in the house. And I would have done more if they'd have let me. They weren't going to let me. Okay? Which is good, because I shouldn't have. But I would have. And so that's really good. I appreciate that. Even though we're not Catholic, the confession was accepted. Now, do a few Hail Marys and whatevers. No, outside playing football. Do a few Hail Marys. Okay, no. All right, it is now almost 6 o'clock. Are we good to end here? Okay, we're good with live stream. Are you guys good here? Do you need one more? Janet, you need one? All right. How could we not let Janet get at least one in there? I mean, what would Saturday be about if we didn't have both Steve and Janet get in there? All right.
Thank you, Rabbi. No, I was just going to say that, my father, he's 82 or so. He's bright. He's so together. My mom, she's doing so well, too. I do think that I personally don't believe in age of retirement. I do believe that if your brain continues to produce and study and be active, and your body too, you will just keep living, right? I mean, unless you have something really major. And I do believe that it all comes from where you are, in terms of your motivation and your desire to do and put yourself in service for other people. A lot of times I hear people saying, I don't feel like going, but then when you're here, it's like you just get revived, by Him, especially on Shabbat.
Amen.
So I just want to say that I appreciate you showing us that example, right? That we just keep going along with Rabbi Tom.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. It's an inspiration. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. Look, I guess I have to just say a little thing here. Look, retirement, to me, in a large sense, is like vacation, okay? You're doing something different. It's not doing nothing. Some of you go on vacation, you feel like you need a vacation after your vacation. So it's not that you don't do anything, you're just doing something different than you do when you're at your job. So you take a vacation from your job and then you go do something else. And so retirement is meaning that you're retiring from this thing you've been doing, but you need to have something to do or you will die and you'll be miserable. You need to be doing something. It doesn't mean you have to be making a whole lot of money or anything. You may have a good retirement plan and you worked it all out. And you one of the few people that actually plan to be okay financially when you retire. Most people end up, retiring broke. But the thing is, you may have been those, but still you need something to do. I think my parents did really well in their retirement into their 80s now. My father's only struggling now because with his mind going and his body, he can't do almost anything. And when you can't do, that's when it starts to be a real problem. But up to this point, both of them always had things to do. They planned and had things to do, to be actively doing stuff, and then they were able to stay mentally sharp and physically sharp because they did stuff. They weren't just sitting around going, I don't know what to do with myself now, I'm retired, I got nothing to do. That's bad. Plan, those of you that are getting to that age where you may think about retiring, know what you want to do when you get there, okay? I already know I'm going to buy about 45,000 Legos. I'm going to build a bunch of stuff. You're laughing. I've already told my wife and kids that's what I was going to do. But after I'm 100 and I keep doing this. Okay, so, but you understand, be planning for, because not everybody has something that you can do and your age doesn't matter. All right, the things that you do right now for work. Some things you just really can't do. Like, Gary's a welder. He can't weld forever. It's going to destroy his back and everything. There's only so much physical stuff you can do. Then you have to become a supervisor or something else that's not as physical. What I do, I could probably do as long as I could keep talking, all right? As long as my mind is sharp enough and I can keep talking, I can do this. So I don't need a whole lot of physically related, vitality. I can get older and have less of that and still be able to do this. But some of you have jobs, so that's not the case. So plan for things that you can do to keep busy, okay, and productive. Be useful. Existence is miserable. Living is great. And when you stop living and start only existing, you're not going to want to exist. And so plan to live in your retirement. Plan for stuff to do. All right? Because if you're sitting around all day long wondering, I don't know what to do, I'm bored, I don't know what to do. Boredom is death. Okay? And so if you have nothing to do, you're not going to want to do anything. You want to just not be here. So plan for it, please. It's the best way to go. And do things that do keep you mentally sharp. Do things that challenge your mind, that where you have to think. Even if you play, I mean like video games and everything, there are ones that will absolutely challenge your mind and keep you thinking. There's other things that are mind-numbing and cost you brain cells, like binging on Netflix. But, you can do things that will keep you sharp. All right? All right. That'll wrap it up. Do we have the children in here? All here. Okay.